The long-awaited Political Party Funding Act has been described by some as a victory for transparency and accountability. The act came into effect on the 1st of April, with the IEC saying it was a game changer in the country's political landscape. Joining me to talk about this is IEC Political Party Funding Chief Executive George Mahlangu. Mr. Mahlangu, very good afternoon. Thank you so much for speaking to us. You describe it as a game changer. Take us through that, please.
Good afternoon, Hugo, and good afternoon to Newzroom Afrika viewers. Hugo, this is a game changer in a sense that this legislation seeks to promote transparency, it seeks to promote accountability, and it also seeks to protect the sovereignty of the Republic in the form of prohibiting certain donations from foreign sources. Voters will be in a position of knowing before the elections who has funded which political party. So voters are going to be in a better position of making an informed decision on the basis of the donations that are going to be disclosed.
Now, what is the implementation process of this act?
As the act has been implemented on the 1st of April 2021, political parties are expected to disclose donations that above 100,000, but limited to 15 million per annum per source. So these donations can be donations in monetary form, donations in kind, or both. So in an event where an owner of a transport company donates 80,000 cash direct into the coffers of the political party's bank account and offer a service in terms of transporting the members of a political party from one point A to another. If that is above 20,000, the two aggregated, that has to be disclosed to the Commission by both the donor and the recipient, which is a political party in this case.
Now, there is talk that this will in some way level the playing field. Is that a correct assumption or correct way of looking at it?
To a certain extent, yes, but not in its entirety, because of the fact that the smaller parties are going to gain as a result of the formula that has been amended from 1910. The previous legislation that just ceased to exist on the 31st of March had a split of 90-10, 10% equity, and then 90% proportional basis, meaning that parties which had more seats in any legislative houses, either at National Assembly or provincial legislature, had more allocation in terms of funds. Now, political party funding has amended that from 90-10 to 33-67. So we've done a rough calculation just to get a sense of how the figures are looking like. At the moment, the top three parties are shedding some allocation to smaller parties. So the 12 parties are gaining from what is being shared as a shedding, not shared, as a shedding by the three big political parties.
Now, high on the agenda of this is transparency and accountability. Is this transparency and accountability limited only to looking at who makes donations to the party in what amounts, particularly if they're overseas, or are there other areas that the ordinary person may not be able to think of?
The transparency is limited to who donates directly into the political party's bank account. There are prohibitions, though, Hugo. Some of the prohibitions are related to foreign governments and their agencies, meaning that a U.S. government and its agency, USAID, are prohibited from donating directly into the coffers of a political party. So that on its own protects the sovereignty of the country. The second prohibition refers to organs of state. Government departments are prohibited from donating money to the political parties as a result of the fact that already there's money that is coming from the public purse. Political parties since 1997 have been getting money from the state. So that has been incorporated into a Political Party Funding Act. Thirdly, the state-owned entities, these are your ESCOMs, your DNL, your Transnet, they are also prohibited. And lastly, of course, the proceeds of crime are prohibited from being received by the political party or the multi-party democracy fund, which is administered at commission level.
Mr. Mahlangu, let's take a look at the next elections, which are scheduled for this year. There have been calls by the EFF to postpone these elections.
Yeah, we interact with political parties, and that call has been brought into the attention of the Commission. And the Commission has got a structure called National Party Liaison Committee, where all the 15 represented political parties attend, and those meetings happen on a monthly basis. So that call has been brought to the attention of the Commission, and the meeting that is going to ventilate that matter, where the Commission is going to receive the submissions from the political parties, will be taking place mid-April. And after the presentations have been made by the political parties, the Commission will retreat, to go back and see what it can do independently from what has been submitted by the political parties. However, we mustn't miss the point that the postponement of the elections remains the prerogative of Parliament. It's a constitutional matter. So the Commission will await a Parliament if the elections are going to be postponed. At the moment, the Commission is preparing for elections as though they are going to take place.
So once these submissions are made mid-month, as you suggest, will the Commission come back with recommendations?
We will look at what we can do, what is within the ambit of the Commission. However, there are things that are constitutional in nature, which the Commission will have limited space to maneuver around.
With that, before we go to what's constitutional, what can you do outside of taking it to Parliament for constitutional changes?
Look, we'll have to look at what we can do. Of course, we are living in the midst of COVID, right? When we preparing for the elections now, we're preparing for elections, taking those things into account. If the political party's submissions refers to something that the Commission won't be in a position, to maneuver within that space, we will await, a Parliament to come up, with, either an extension or giving the Commission some directions on what the Commission has to do. The Commission is interacting as we speak with the Minister of COGTA. I think the citizens would know that at the moment no one knows when the election date is going to be. So that also remains the prerogative of the Minister of COGTA. Until that date is announced, we will continue as the Commission to prepare for the elections as though they are going to take place.
Are you aware of the process then that is required to move the dates constitutionally, and how long that process would take?
It remains the prerogative of Parliament.
Well, there is talk, obviously, that the landscape is not fair to conduct elections currently. There's also an opinion that suggests that the playing field has been level for everyone because COVID has impacted all political parties the same.
Yes.
Your thoughts on that?
Look, it's a fair observation, and this delay, of course, COVID had an impact on this delay that we are seeing at the moment. So we'll have to await, and see whether it will be considered that political parties will be in a position to campaign or not. One of the things that they are raising is that they can't campaign as a result of COVID-19 regulations. However, as the Commission, we are not, in a position to give go-ahead to political parties because that remains the responsibility of COVID Command Council. We will be guided by those as well on how are we going to deal with certain situations.
Mr. Mahlangu, you've talked about readiness for the elections this year. You've said that you are preparing as if elections are happening. What preparation are you carrying out?
In terms of procurement of all material that we are going to need for elections, and we take into consideration COVID-19, we have learned quite a bit from the November elections, the by-elections, because those elections happened during, COVID-19, and we have learned, what we're supposed to do. Some of the things that we are looking at is to procure cotton buds. In the past, we would use one item, for marking, after, the voter has voted. But taking into consideration the fact that we can't use one item or one mark, for each voter, we are buying, a number of cotton buds. Voters are expected to bring their own pens so that we don't utilize, one pen for the voters, social distancing. So we take in consideration of all COVID-19 protocols.
Now, have you drawn any lessons from countries that have held elections during this COVID time? We talk about the US, we talk about Uganda, Congo Republic, for instance.
Yes, I mean, there are countries, as you have mentioned, that have conducted elections, through COVID-19 space. We have learned, from those countries. Hence, our procurement of election material talks to some of the things that we have learned from those countries that have conducted elections during COVID-19.
Mr. Mahlangu, thank you kindly for coming on to the show. There was IEC Political Party Funding Chief Executive George Mahlangu.